I have been on a journey to be someone. And along the way, I learned the secrets. It's your friends, the people you choose to spend time with. My life, health, and wealth have been changed forever by the people around me. And now it's time for you to meet my friends. This is the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hoang. Welcome back to the Be Someone podcast. I'm Michael Hoang, and today we're here with Wyatt Reed out of, would we say Northern Alabama, Southern Tennessee? What do you call that region?
Yep, that's it. That's it.
North,
Right on the border.
Northern Alabama, Southern Tennessee, right on the border. All right. So Wyatt and I know each other. We're a member of several masterminds. We've come to know each other recently, and I'm like, man, I got to get you on the podcast. We got to hear your story, brother. So I'm going to start from the very beginning, man. What got you into real estate?
Yeah, man. So I was in manufacturing before real estate. I worked in a factory. I've been working in factories for about 5 or 6 years. I started when I was 19, and maybe younger than that. But I just always knew that there was something else for me, and I always knew that I was going to do something else. My parents were entrepreneurs and things like that. They own their own restaurant, and restaurants are extremely hard, but they've had theirs open for over 30 years now. The hard workers and things like that, but yeah, I knew there was something more, man. And when I finally got to a place in life that I knew that I thought I wanted to be at, so I had the job title, I had the house, I had the car, I had the family, and I was like still in my early 20s, and I was like, what is next? I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. And so I got on YouTube and I was like, how to make a lot of money and not work too hard. That was a complete lie, but I found that guy, Chris Crone, with the BMW i8 and the mansion. Probably none of that was his, but that got me into it, man. That was one of my favorite cars, and I was like, I'll do it. But I didn't pay him. I actually tried to do it on my own and paid a local mentor. So yeah, that's it. I wish it was something more spectacular, but YouTube got me.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, man, I've found real estate to be really local in my pursuits, and it's just different every state to state, and sometimes county to county or city to city. So I think there's a lot of value in finding local people that are doing real estate the way you want to do real estate.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful that you picked up on that. And so, man, what is your why? Like you covered this kind of a little bit, but like if I'd ask you like what's your why? Like what drove you to really hammer down on this?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, everybody says their whys, their family, and I know a lot of people who say that who that's a complete lie, and I don't like that. Uh, I'm a Christ follower, I have that as a foundation of mine, and my purpose is to love God's people, man. I think that that's what He's put me here to do. I know how to create wealth, fund ministries, help others. Like that's my thing. I'm here to just love God's people, man. And I I do real estate, and that's a vehicle for me. But my actual purpose and what I find enjoyment is in the helping people.
Love it, man. I really love to hear that.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, my why was so I could start a family, and with for everybody who knows, I had a corporate job and I was traveling Monday through Friday, sometimes Monday through Thursday. Every single week, I would either fly or drive to another city for what I was doing for my corporate job, and it was just unsustainable. But my wife was in school at the time, and we lived in a house hack, and so we had roommates, and it worked for a period of time. But after 8 years, man, it's like you become a stranger in your own town because you're only home a couple days a week.
Yeah.
And then in that time, you don't want to go out and do anything, man. You just want to sleep. And so that drove me to get into real estate while I was working, while I was traveling. I was buying houses, building up my portfolio there. You and I also have something else in common as well. I lived for about a year in the same part of this beautiful country that you're from. Well, for me, it was Northern Alabama,
Mhm.
And so, man, it is just a gorgeous place there. It's like nothing else. The rivers amazed me. You have actual boulders and rocks and hills, and I don't know if
Yep.
the area I lived in we would call it mountains, but for me, a guy from East Texas where everything's flat, that was mountainous terrain. And at that time when I was a teenager, I had never seen anything like that. I'm born and raised here in and around the Houston area, but man, that was completely different. And I just love how everyone knew each other, everyone was friendly. People would invite you in their house and give you sweet tea and talk to you all day long. And they didn't have to know you, and they could know your uncle's sister's cousin's brother, and they treat you just like family. I
Yeah, man.
really, really,
We
really love Northern Alabama.
Yeah, we have a mastermind in the mountains, at least once a year, and it's my favorite place, man. I try to go a little early and stay a little later, before and after everybody's left, and it's my happy place, man. When you can go and get away, you're in Tom's thing as well. He talks about getting away and like putting the phone down and just taking a journal outside and sitting on the porch, look at mountains or rivers or whatever, and just that's when your planning, your visions, and everything like that, takes hold, and you can really be creative with it. So it's my happy place, man.
That's beautiful, Wyatt. I haven't done that in a while. I really need to do that. Last time I really disconnected with my phone and connected with myself is it's been about a year now, but my wife and I did almost 3 months in Asia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we hopped from country to country, and that was really great. Got to go see beautiful mountains and rivers and rode boats through rivers. Then the rivers go through hills and mountains and caves, and that was really nice. But man, I need to. You're reminding me. I really need to get away and do some journaling and do some reconnecting somewhere here locally or somewhere in the U.S. where I can fly to. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I think when we get into it, man, like when you start getting into real estate or you start getting into like starting your own business, we put our heads down and we're in that grind and hustle phase for so long, and sometimes it's really hard to come out of that. Sometimes it's hard to, you miss vacations, you miss family, and that's why I say like most people's why is their family, but it's not really, because you look at these guys and they're sacrificing their family for their business. And at one point we were struggling, but I'd always from the very beginning said I would never sacrifice my family for business, for money or anything like that. And so when I started to see myself going down that rabbit hole, I'd had to quickly pull myself out and say, this isn't why you started this, right? And so, over the last 2 years, I've really taken a big step back out of my five, and I've said, hey, are we happy with where we're at? Can we sustain if we didn't do anything else? And like, let's do some traveling, let's spend some time together. And like every morning, I'm up on the couch watching cartoons with my kids. I'm getting off around 3 or 4, trying my best to be at 3, but you know how it is. But trying to get home to them, to take them out and do things with them and hang out with my buddies, because again, when you start, you sacrifice your friends too, right? There are some people that I don't hang out with anymore that, selfishly, I probably didn't spend the amount of time that I should have with them, right? We didn't really align, business wise or things like that, but we were friends for a long time. And then I pushed them to the wayside to get started in business and I justified it by saying, hey, I'm doing this for my family, when really I should have made time for my friends, right? And that's one thing I tell people all the time is like, yes, there's going to be sacrifice, but some of this stuff was unnecessary. Like, make time for your friends, make time for your family. Like, it's not just about the business.
Yeah, I love that. So I just wanted to highlight that, Wyatt and I, we share a belief that hustle is a season. It's
Mm.
not a lifestyle. So we don't stay in hustle. It's just a season to get us where we need to go. And man, on the friends, I always tell people that your did you find that you made new friends though when you got into
Oh
real
yeah,
estate along the way?
yeah, Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I did. Friends that aligned with me, and I've got friends that align with me in business, in spirituality, and just outright just friendship, you know. And so I think you do find those along the way as you find yourself and you start to figure out really truly who you want to be. You find those people. And some people, you know, they take themselves out of your life because they don't align with that. But there are some people that, I mean, I know for me, I can only speak for me that I could have saved my friendships, but in turn, I sacrificed them, you know, by not making them a priority. So,
Yeah, one of my core beliefs of how the universe works is that whenever we pass away, because we all will at some point, when we die, we're going to take our net worths and we're going to take the 5 people that we spend the most time with and we're going to average their net worth together, and that's going to reflect your net worth. And so we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And so I love how you said, like, some people self-selected out of your life. I had that happen to me too whenever I started to become successful. I felt guilty about it for a period of time, but other people came into my life. And I learned that, you know, part of the secret is, which I talk about in this show, is like part of the secret of you know, this is the Be Someone podcast. I started this podcast because I wanted to be someone. And then along the way, I learned the secret was my friends. I am who I am today because of my friends. And I also like to challenge people to get outside of the box that society has prescribed you, because usually, like, statistically, our girlfriend or wife is like a person that we got along with in high school. And our best friends are, we can only have so many friends. So our best friends are the people that live near us, or the people that were on the same sports team that we play, or we're into video games, or whatever we were into. And then we move into our 20s and 30s with that prescription that the world gave us, that you were born in this town surrounded by these people, your father and mother did this. And I always challenge people that if you're happy with that, that's fine, but you don't have to follow the prescription that life gave you. You can rebuild what your life looks like to you, and you can shape your life into what you want. And so my closest friends today are friends that were born and raised nowhere near where I was. Their family are not in the same industries that my parents were in when I was a kid. And as I've reshaped my life, I have found myself much happier as a person and much more productive. And life has just been so bountiful when the people around you don't have the same beliefs and the same structures of the people that was prescribed to you when you were a kid. So I would say that, like, you know, I would tell anybody listening, if they wanted to get started in real estate, you know, get friends, get real friends, get real estate friends, or whatever you're trying to do in life, because you become the people around you. And if you think that you can hang around with people that are doing things that don't align with your value system, right? If you don't drink and your friends are alcoholics, if you are faithful in your marriage and you have friends that are not, that is going to metastasize onto you like a cancer. And even if you never take action on that, it is a burden that takes up our very valuable mental real estate. So I would challenge you to find people that align with your personal goals and your value systems, of
yeah.
not who you were as a kid, but who you want to become today. And my mindset has changed dramatically just by changing who I spend most of my time with.
Yeah,
Um,
and get people who are going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Like that's huge.
that's huge. That's huge, brother. That's really huge. Yeah. Those are your real friends. Those are your real friends, the people that tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, not that are upset or worried about upsetting you or making you feel uncomfortable. Those are not the friends that I want in my life, and those are not the friends that are going to help me grow.
Right.
All right. So, can you tell us about? Tell me about your first deal.
Yeah. So, like I said, after the whole YouTube situation, you know, I'm not going to send money to a guy in California to teach me how to invest in real estate in Alabama. There is a time and a place for people outside of your local market. You know, for specific mentorships and things like that. But I tried to do it on my own for about 3 or 4 months. Spun my wheels, listened to Bigger Pockets, read the books, watched YouTube videos, and I just couldn't make anything happen, man. So I see it all the time too in other people. Like that's what they want to do. And then I hired a mentor here locally, and within 3 months, I'd done my first 2 deals, and within that first year, I'd done 5 deals. And so that first deal was I bought it from a wholesaler. I used my mentor's hard money lender. So all the resources that I obtained and everything that I needed to do to focus on getting a deal, I learned and got the resources from my mentor. And so I got it from a wholesaler, bought it, used the BRRRR method. Back then I wanted to just buy rental properties. I didn't want to be a wholesaler or anything like that because I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I bought this little ghetto property, and it was cash flowing maybe $150 to $200 a month, and I was like, man, I'm a real estate investor now, but it wasn't a great. I'd say it wasn't great as far as cash flow goes, but I did end up, so I took out a loan to get into the mentorship. I ended up selling that one property less than a year later and paid that mentorship program off. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's amazing, man. What year was that?
I think it was 2018, 2019. But man, if I could have just knowing what I knew in 2019 now, we may not even be talking right now. You know what I mean? It was crazy. That was such a good market. Things were going $20,000-$30,000 over asking price on day 1, 2. Such a great market to be in. But,
yeah, if I tell myself that all the time, like, man, if I just knew what I knew 6-7 years ago, whenever I got started. I wish I would have taken mentorship a little more seriously because I started with a house hack and I'm like, I'm good. And then I sat around for a year or two, and it's like I look back and I'm like, man, like once you kind of remove a lot of the fear and a lot of the mystery surrounding some parts of a transaction, when I look back and what I could do in a year now versus what I could do in a year back then, I'm like, man, it would have compounded.
yeah.
You buy one house a year, then you buy 2 houses a year, and then you look back and it's like, man, imagine if I was doing that, because I was buying and holding, I was keeping them as rentals, man, it stacks up really fast on you, and so you kind of answered how you found your first deal. You worked through a wholesaler, and then the wholesaler, your mentor taught you how to find.
Yeah. So my first 5, it's funny because I didn't have the money to invest in the mentor, but I just read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and Robert Kiyosaki said, the rich say, how can I afford it? And the poor say, I can't afford it. So I was like, well, I'm not poor. I'm going to be rich, So I was like, how can I afford this? And I took out a non-secured term loan, which, it was like $18,000 for a 6-month course. Looking back on it now, I'm like, why in the world did you do that? But I was going to make it happen. I don't know that I would ask someone else to do that now as a mentor myself, but I think that's crazy for a brand new beginner. But like I said, I was going to make it happen, and I came in, I'd done what I was told. I took massive imperfect action, and I found these wholesalers, and that's how I got my first 5 deals were from wholesalers. I went on Facebook groups. I found all these guys. I found 60 to 70 wholesalers, and I just messaged them every other week. And I was like, hey, send me a deal, send me a deal, send me a deal. And I was making offers on everything. It didn't matter if I was $50,000 less than what they were asking. I was making offers. And that's what I tell people to do all the time. If you don't have the money to do marketing, you still need to attack it aggressively with the free stuff.
Yeah, I like what you said there about massive imperfect action. Everything I've ever done in my life that has brought good things to my life was found through massive imperfect action. So if you're stuck in analysis paralysis and you think everything needs to be perfect before you move forward, man, you are missing out on the gold. You are really, and I love something else you said about making offers. I believe your income is directly correlated with how many offers you make. And also, as a real estate investor, we have to get comfortable with hearing no. Every no that we get gets us one step closer to the yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember first getting into real estate when I come from, like the W-2 mindset, like no hurt. No was impactful inside of my psyche. Hearing no was like hurt my pride, hurt my ego. But after you learn how real estate investing really works, is you want the no, and you want to get that out of the way so you get closer to the yes. So I love that you were messaging 50, 60, 70 wholesalers a week or a day. I love that you were making offers and you were hearing no a lot, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I'll
Yeah.
say this about what you said about the no thing. Like that is so important to understand, because I got into a situation one time where I had about like 1.2, 1.3 million out across 9 to 13, somewhere around 9 to 13 properties. I had it out with hard money. And, I was going to these lenders. I was using the Burr method. So I was going to these lenders and I was like, hey, I need to refinance out. I need to refinance out. And I got to a point to where they were like, no, you're not going to do this. This is too much, blah, 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 blah. And, dude, I probably called 30 banks. And, I had one guy tell me, you're not going to find a bank to do this. And I'm like, well, just tell me no so I can go to the next person, because somebody will say yes. And guess what? Somebody did say yes. We worked it out. So that's a mindset you need to have. If so many people stop or say, well, I can't do this because somebody said no, one or two people said no, somebody's going to say yes. So get to calling. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Get comfortable with no. I love that. I love that you achieved your goal by just pushing forward and doing one more phone call, one more check. There's so much money in the world as well that I like that the fear of not having money didn't stop you, because there is so much money in this world. Every meetup I go to, every real estate community I'm a part of, there's hard money lenders, there's private money lenders. There's people who tell me they have no money, and then we discover they've got a bunch of money in a retirement account and they didn't know that they could invest that in real estate. Money is never the issue. It's the deal. If you have a good deal, the money will find you. And so I like how you did. A fear of not having money didn't stop you, because there are piles and piles of money all around you, and you kept calling till you found the pile of money that was looking for the deal that you had.
Yeah,
I love that,
sure.
man. I love that. So you exited that property through a sale. Did you sell it through the MLS?
So the first property, I actually refinanced it, and I held it for almost a year and then sold it to an investor. I sold two of those houses, and two of those first five houses. The guy actually, it was crazy. The guy rolled up in a Ferrari to the closing company, and I was like, all right, man, that's pretty sweet. So it just, that just kind of justified again. And I'm not materialistic. I don't have these fancy things, but like that kind of stuff, it's just like justifies the amount of wealth that can be made, and the things that you can do. It doesn't have to be materialistic. I mean, you can travel, you can help people. Like, real estate is such an amazing vehicle to produce wealth, and if you have that ability, you need to.
Yeah, I agree. What you said about the Ferrari and how you're not a materialistic guy, but that was impactful on you. I think of it like when you tell someone Ferrari or Rolex watch or anything, we have a common unit of measure we use in our heads. And that common unit of measure is usually our salary. So whatever you earn, if you earn 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, 250,000 a year, that is the unit of measure that we subconsciously use. And so when you say you're talking about a luxury item or a toy that cost 100 grand, people would say, I would never buy that, because they're thinking about working for a whole year or maybe two in order to afford that. And so we kind of have to break that mindset that society's given us, that we are working for a year to earn a certain amount of money. when you get involved in real estate, entrepreneurship, and you're running a business, your labor and time is not directly correlated with what you produce. It's the size of the problems you solve that determine what your compensation is. So the bigger problems you solve, the bigger you are compensated and the faster that you can be compensated. And so for the average person listening, they might hear Ferrari or some sort of toy, six-figure toy, and they're struck and they would say, I would never do that. But I think that's because you haven't understood what's possible when you get involved in real estate, when you start investing in real estate.
I mean, just think about it this way. You know, on the seller financing side, which you know that's kind of like my go-to. I can do 3, maybe 4 deals, and have the enough cash flow out of those 3 to 4 deals to make the payment on that Ferrari. Right? It's all about that kind of outlook, that kind of mindset. It's like, okay, well, what do I want? How much is it going to cost? You know, how many deals do I need to do to buy it outright, or how many deals do I need to do to finance it, to pay for it myself, right? The first goal and should always be to replace your income, right? Replace your income so that you can live and do and go create more wealth freely. And then it's like, then what? You know, okay, well, I want this truck. Okay, it's going to take 2 houses to make that payment and a down payment. You know, let's go get that. All right, let's go. I want this Rolex. It's going to cost this much money. I need to do 2 flips or a flip or whatever. It's just that it's that simple, but we overcomplicate it and we get into it and we're like, you know, we need more. We need to do this, that, and the other. But I always tell people, man, you got to set a goal, to do everything you can to get to that goal, and then take a step back, because we oftentimes just push through it and go to the next. But take a step back and say, okay, where am I at? Am I happy with what's going on? What am I doing to get to this goal? Do I need to set something in place? Do I need to set some systems and processes up? Do I need to hire somebody? But take a step back and look at what you're doing and ask yourself if you're happy with what you're doing, because oftentimes we're not. We're just pushing through and trying to make more money. Like, when your vision is more money and that's all it is, like, it's not a good vision, and you're going to never be happy or satisfied.
Yeah, that's right. That is, I think that's the hedonic treadmill. I'm sure you've heard about the hedonic treadmill. Is that when you buy these things, your resting level of happiness, it returns to about where it was. So you buy a nice toy or you buy a nice car, you're happier for a short period of time, but you always go back to about your resting level of happiness. So happiness is kind of on our responsibility to build the life that makes us happy, because it's not going to come from toys. But I wanted to highlight something you said. When I sold one of my first rental properties, I took a check for about $115,000 in profit. Right? I have the photo of the check still. I have a photo of me posing with the check. Maybe we'll edit it into this if you're watching on YouTube. And that property I held for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and I kind of forgot that I had it until it was time to get the tenant out and get the property sold. We listed on the MLS. The amount of effort that took to hold that thing for 2 or 3 years, earn $115,000, is nowhere near the amount of effort that I had to exert at my job to earn $115,000 a year. And so money's going to have a different meaning when you start learning how to invest. And then you were talking about payments on a nice car. Yeah, right, on a Ferrari. Me and my wife have paid off cars. Some of them are 10 years old. Financial freedom is something different, means something different to us. And I'm not saying we won't one day get there, but I'm not an accountant or a tax attorney or anything, but I've got friends that they get nice toys and then they lease them or they put them on payments, and then the cash flow from their rental properties pays for these nice toys, and they get to write off the expense of that nice toy as a business expense. They might put their company logo on it. They only use it for work purposes. Again, I'm not giving tax or legal advice here, but I've seen people do that successfully. And so So I would just challenge you that when you hear us talking about those things, don't measure it against what you think money is worth and what your time is worth. Measure it against what's possible and the problems that you can solve. And so, have you sold all 5 of those houses?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't think I don't hold on to much long term if it's not seller financed. If it's seller financed to a tenant buyer on the back end, you can't really. I mean, you can sell the note, but that's what I'm focused on now. But anything that I've ever held that I haven't seller financed, I've never held probably longer than 2 or 3 years. To be honest with you. Something else will come up, something bigger will come up, and I'm like, hey, let's get rid of this and get that, and move. It's always moving things around.
Wyatt, I love that you said that because me and when other real estate investors were new, we had this same thing where when we first start and we get a good rental property, it's cash flowing, it's got equity, we tell ourselves we're going to pay this mortgage off. We're going to hold this thing forever. This thing is going to double, triple, quadruple in value. This is what our retirement's going to look like. And what you start to learn is that we go from when we start, we begin with an ROI calculation, which is a return on investment, which is how many dollars came out of our pocket are then going into the deal, and then how many dollars come out of the deal into our pocket. And we start to do what's called an ROE investment, return on equity, which we start looking at if a property has $100,000 in equity or $50,000 in equity. If we sold that and redeployed that money, what would our return be? And so I love that you said you don't really hold things much more than 2 or 3 years. That's been my pattern as well, as every 2-3 years we want to sell things. And also because stuff in houses break down and wear out over time. And so I don't want to hold a house for 15 years and then it needs another complete rehab on the inside. And so every property I look at like an equity goal. Like when there's enough equity in the property, the hog's gotten fat and it's time to slaughter. That's
one reason why I do seller financing too for the long haul, because I want to create a business where I don't have to be here. And, the coaching business you can do from anywhere. It is what it is, but the real estate's a lot harder. If you've got flips actively going, if you got wholesale deals actively going, if you don't have people in place, you can't go anywhere. And for us, we hit a hard stop. We were doing 5 or 6 flips at a time. And we were making a crap ton of money, but it was like, where's all that money going? And, we hit this wall and we were like, we got to stop this because we're not, some of our employees were getting paid more than us, And so we started buying everything and putting it on terms with seller financing. And, they're responsible for the property at that point. So they're not calling me if the HVAC goes out. They don't call the bank if the HVAC goes out. They get it fixed, right? They call the repair person. And so that seller financing, made it to where I'm not a landlord anymore and I can go do whatever I want.
Wow, I love that. So you're mostly doing seller finance now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a couple of flips going, like I was telling you. I hate flips. I think me and you share that. But in the grand scheme of things, man, it's like every time I do a flip, I'm like, I'm never going to do another one of those. And then it just shows its ugly face, and it's like, here we go again. So we have a couple of flips going on, but I try to buy at least a couple of seller finance deals a month.
Wow. Man, I love to hear that. So how are you funding these seller finance deals?
So we're still using the Burr method. We're still using other people's. So we'll pitch a cash offer, right? And we'll try to get it cash, and then we'll also pitch a seller finance offer up front. But regardless, we're gonna put a tenant buyer in on the back and seller finance that way as well on the back end. But if we get the cash offer, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use somebody else's money. We're going to use hard money. We're going to buy it, and then we're going to turn around once the tenant buyer is in and refinance out of it with a bank. I've done that with every property. I've always leveraged other people's money because my money goes to marketing and keeping the business running. And so that's what I always tell people is if you have money, don't worry about buying the deal. Worry about putting it into the marketing, because finding the deal is more important, right? If you have a good deal, like you said, somebody will fund it. Like I can call and have your deal funded in probably 5-10 minutes, just because I have the resources, right? But I can't do that for your marketing. I can't set your marketing up for you. I can't pay for your marketing. Only you can, right? So the marketing is so important. You got to keep leads coming in, no matter what business you're in. Even if it's landscaping or contracting, you got to keep jobs coming in, or you're not going to have money, right?
Right. So how did you find banks that were okay with you seller financing?
So some of them are, some of them aren't. It just, like I said earlier, it's just calling and calling and calling and figuring out what banks need. A lot of banks just need to check a box. And so I say, well, how can we check those boxes? And, a lot of my bankers follow me on Facebook, so they know what I do, but they're like, hey, do this to check these boxes and we'll get them done. But it's just calling and having those conversations. It's the way we do it, and it's not the way you do it across the country, because there are some states that don't do land sales contracts. But like Texas, I don't think you can do a land sales contract in Texas. But we do land sales contracts. They're not recorded, so I'm not a CPA. I'm not telling you this is the best or the right way to do it in your market, but we don't record them. And essentially, it's like a handshake on steroids, right? We can record them if we see something fishy going on, but we've been doing it for 3 years, and that is what it is. So we're just open and honest with people. I mean, I think that's the best thing you can do is call up 100 banks and tell them what you're doing and see if they're okay with it.
Yeah, I love the transparency and openness. And so part of the reason I brought that up is there's something that we all know about called the due on sale clause. Most loans have a due on sale clause. And so when you owner finance or you sell a house subject to, the bank has the option, the ability to activate what's called the due on sale clause. If the title transfers names, they consider it a sale. And so they want the loan to come due that they offered you. And so you have to be prepared to pay off, refinance, or sell the house if that happens. It doesn't happen often, nearly never. I mean, I know someone who's done 1,000 seller finance and sub 2 transactions. He's had the due on sale clause called twice in 1,000 transactions. But you have to be prepared as part of your business model to deal with that if it happens. But the reality is that banks are not in the real estate business. They're in the lending business, the note business, the paper business. They don't want the properties back. They want the mortgage paid on time,
Right.
if not early, and they want to set it and forget it and collect their interest.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't record our land sales contracts. The title doesn't get put in their name until they make the last payment. And so I think that's what really helps us with that situation. But you're right. But if you're doing it right, and this is just like anything else in real estate, if you're buying these properties right, then you have the ability to refinance if something like that happens, or you have the ability to sell it if something like that happens. You can't just overpay for these properties. If you're buying right, you're going to have the ability to do different things.
Yeah, and there's several creative strategies that do not work in Texas that work in other states. So it's important for you to work with a mentor in your market that understands your local market. And if you're investing nationwide or in a new market for yourself, I always recommend using a good transaction coordination company. Don't bring it in-house till you know what you're doing. Call up a local title company, talk to them. Most title companies have a lawyer. For a few $100s. A lawyer can draw up something for you or let you know what you can and cannot do. There are resources for you, and network with people that are doing what you want to do. If you want to do an Airbnb in California or something, don't just go off and do that on your own. Talk to Airbnb investors in California, in that same county or city where you want to invest,
Yeah.
because real estate is not the same everywhere you go.
Yeah, if I ever when I onboard people that are out of state, the first thing I do is say, hey, we need to find some investors in your area. If I don't know anybody there, and we need to talk to their attorneys and see what we can and can't do, and then we go from there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think you guys can do a contract for deed in Texas. So, same situation, just called something different. You gotta. There are ways to do things. It's just finding the people who are willing to do it and finding the attorneys who are willing to back it. Because I mean, there have been a lot of things I've taken to my attorney that I've heard from other people, hey, you can't do. And if he's confident enough to take it and do it and back it in court, then I'm confident in it. So.
Yeah, one example of what's different here in Texas than other states is owner financing. When you're doing a wrap, they have a regulation here that says you can only do 3 per year. And then after that, you have to have a RMLO underwrite it. You have to have a residential mortgage lender underwrite the buyer. And so what that means for me is I don't really care how the rules are written. If they say you have to do 3 and then raise your standard, I raise my standard immediately.
Right.
I'm going to get all of them underwritten by an RMLO. I'm not going to play around in that gray area.
Right.
And I like what else you said about how in other states it's the same function, but it's a different piece of paper. And that is true as well, as you have to conform to whatever the rules are. And as you go from state to state, there might be the same strategy. It functions the same for you, but it's called something different in this other state. So that's why it's important to use local resources.
Yeah, and what you were referring to, if you got just a second on that, is the Dodd-Frank Act, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So when we started seller financing, we ran into that, and it took us about 2 or 3 months and about 5 different attorneys, creative financing attorneys, to figure it out and figure out how to continue to function without having to jump through all the flaming hoops, right? But again, it goes back to the whole no thing. It's like, okay, what can we do? Let's make sure we're, like you said, not in the gray area, but what can we do? Because most of the time we can find a solution to make this thing happen, right? And then that's essentially what we do. We've rewritten our contracts. We've put wording in it that justifies that. We have our attorney do specific things when we close deals, so that I don't want to say the word like get around it, but so that we can still operate not within the gray.
So what does your business look like today versus when you first got started?
Yeah, good question. It looks similar as far as structure goes, but completely different as far as strategy goes. When you first get started, you've got this idea of what you want, like this big team, the salespeople, the office building, everything. You want to be that guy, and then when you get to that point, for me, anyways, I realized that it really wasn't what I wanted. So, we built up a team. We had the office. We had salespeople. We had about 6 to 8 employees, and just the overhead was crazy. And when we started buying and holding properties, and we started to see a cash flow coming in, and we hit this point to where we were like, we don't have to have this overhead to have this cash flow. If we didn't have all this overhead, like think of how much cash flow we'd be making right now, and how much money we'd have coming in. And so we downsized. We still have a couple of employees, but yeah, I don't run appointments anymore. I don't take calls anymore. I do like approved deals and set up funding and stuff like that. But There are some deals that I don't even go to the title company anymore for, right? So I try to set systems and processes in place without having major overhead, where I can still, like I said earlier, go and do without having to worry about things getting done. Like I was in Africa a couple of months ago, and we still got like 2 deals closed, and we got a rehab started on one house, and yeah, it didn't have any issues from the portfolio. I actually, the way I have the coaching set up, a lot of some of the students can run the calls as well, and so like that's my biggest thing is trying to figure out how can I put things in place without creating massive overhead to be able to do whatever I want, you know.
So, how are you closing deals without going to title?
So I have partners that I can let go close on deals for me. I have partners in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, so we can close deals without me there. If it is something that I have to have done, then I can have a mobile notary meet me somewhere and get it printed off and done and overnight it back. But we don't even do that oftentimes. You can just sign one piece of paper per deal, or you can have just kind of an overarching addendum to your organization that allows other people to sign. Obviously, you don't want just anybody able to sign for you. You want people you can trust and you know. And I have those people, and those are relationships you create, right, along the way. So that's just how it's been for us.
Yeah, I've done the remote. I've done the mobile notary before, where they come to you and you sign, and then they overnight copies back to the title company. And then I think with the the pandemic that we had, now I've had some title companies offer remote closings, where
Mm-hmm.
you like get on a Zoom call and you hold your ID up next to the camera, and they record you guys talking, and then you can sign a DocuSign, which I thought that was amazing. I'm like, why didn't we have this all along?
The technology is there. It's just the way that we do the closings, man. It's got to evolve to where we can do stuff like that. I mean, I understand it, but I think that things can move quickly and better if we do stuff like that. If we kind of upgrade with the times, but it's hard. That legal is very hard to do like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've found a lot of lawyers and title companies they know the law, they know their paperwork, they know what they're doing, but they are definitely stuck in their ways. You also glossed right over something. I'm not going to let you just buff away. You said you were in Africa. Why were you in Africa?
Yeah, so I go with a ministry called FCA, or an organization called FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We use sports to get into hard to reach places. If I go to a hard to reach place in Africa as a white missionary, it's not a good look, right? But if I go as a coach or someone bringing sports over there, sports training, man, if you take a ball to a field over there, you have hundreds of people just show up. They don't care that you can't speak the language. They don't care about what color you are, what religion you are. You have this common ground of a ball in a field, man. And it's so crazy to even, like, I can tell you about it, but like you got to see it. It's insane. We went to a beach, and we got out a soccer ball. We got out they're big in rugby. We got out a rugby ball, and it was probably a group of 30 of us just playing on the beach. And then, man, before you knew it, there were people all over us, like wanting to play with us, kids, adults, everything in between. And then, after an hour or so of playing, you start to see these breakaways of people where they're like sharing the gospel with these guys, and man, it's so crazy to see. But it's such a good strategy to take sports, because you get that camaraderie, you get that, something that you guys can bond over, and I think it's pretty awesome.
That's beautiful, man. I've been to other countries, mostly in Asia, but I've never been to Africa before. And
Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. The people are amazing. Even in the really tough areas, it's just it's a different experience, man. I try to go 2 or 3 times a year. I'll be going by myself in July or August, back up there to just meet with some guys. And man, I'm so excited. I love it. If I could be over there more, I would. So
wow, wow. You go the same place every time, or you bounce around?
so kind of bounce around a little bit, mainly Ethiopia. We fly into Addis, which is the capital, and we kind of launch out of there. We go to different different camps, different tribes, different cities, and just kind of go out there and try to find leaders that what we call coaches, raise up coaches and teach them how to disciple and share the gospel, and those guys are going to go out and win their communities. That's how they did it in the Bible and Acts, and the way Jesus did it, and that's the way we do it. We just identify leaders and train them up, and they're there to win their country, or their city.
And is real estate really amplified this mission? It's helped you do more of this?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, it's been a form of being able to give to the ministry, but I think, and this, you may get me on a tangent here, but I think oftentimes as Americans, man, we use money to check a box, and we say, well, hey, we gave to this ministry or we gave to this charity, and we did what we needed to do. I oftentimes challenge people to give, but also to go. Even if it's here and you're giving to an organization, like, know where your money's going. Like, go and volunteer your time. Like, I've been able to go. I was a part of FCA in high school, and when I got back into it after college, I started going to leadership events and meetings. I'm not a part of FCA. I don't get paid by them. I'm just a volunteer, and I know people in it, so I go and I see what's actually going on, right? But I volunteer my time, and I go on mission. So I just challenge people, man, like, don't just check that box of giving, like, be a part of it,
Yeah, and I've found that sometimes organizations have plenty of money. What they don't have is boots on the ground, or the manpower.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not about the money for some nonprofits and charities and religious organizations. They need people to show up and do what needs to be done and represent, be the face of an organization. So I love that you mentioned that. Figure out where your money's going, and don't just give but go. That was beautiful, man. So how are you finding deals? Let's switch gears a little bit. How are you finding deals today?
Yeah, definitely investing in marketing. I still buy from wholesalers. I still buy from realtors. I've got 2 properties right now that I got from realtors that I'm working. But we pay for postcards. We do PPL. We've kind of taken a step back on the texting a little bit, just because it's been a pain in the butt. Just dealing with the rules and regulations, and also just the IT of keeping the software going. It's been a pain. And like I said, I'm a lazy investor, man. I'm going to figure out the easiest way to do something so that I don't have to spend time on it, and then I can pass it off to somebody super, super easily. So that's what I do. I don't do anything crazy. I don't spend tens of thousands of dollars in marketing. Like I said, I've built up a portfolio where I'm happy, and I can just do a couple of deals here and there a month and continue to roll.
That's awesome. And so, if a wholesaler or realtor had a deal for you, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, mostly just text. We text back and forth. As you build up. So if you're a brand new beginner, then you need to be texting every wholesaler. I don't care who it is, every single wholesaler, and making offers on every single thing they have. Realtors are a little different. If you make one Facebook post about a realtor and you got 150 realtors, calling you, texting you, stuff like that. So I try to identify realtors who either invest themselves or work with a lot of or some investors. That way that I know what they're sending me is actually, going to be decent. And just create those relationships over the course of doing it.
Yeah, I wanted to add in here that there are a lot of licensed agents. It is not hard to get your license, so you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. And so, one tip I found to find agents other than referral and from your personal network is if I see a house that's sold that I personally would have been interested in, then I go and contact that agent and say, "Do you get a lot of these? Hey, I saw you sold the house on 123 Morning Glory Lane. Do you get a lot of these? If so, I want to be your guy." That's one way to find these agents. Another way is to post on social media like Facebook or these other groups. But the real nugget for me is the real estate investing groups in your area. Doesn't matter where you are. Facebook has real estate investing groups. Now, your account, I've experienced that your account can get restricted if you add yourself to too many groups too quickly. So the number could have changed, but I was last told do not join more than 10 groups in a day. But Facebook changes their algorithm all the time. But that is one way to find agents and wholesalers in your area. But if someone listening to this show had a deal that they wanted to send you in Northern Alabama or Southern Tennessee, how would they send you that deal?
Yeah, I mean, you can send it through email, SMT House Buyer, SMT like Southern Middle Tennessee House Buyer at gmail.com. And I check it every single day. So that's how I get leads in. But I think I just wanted to say this too. You said something golden right there. And, I use this on the back end when I'm looking at buying flips is when I'm looking at a house that I know that I'm going to flip, I'll go to the MLS and I'll see, to Zillow, and I'll see what realtor in that area is selling the most properties, and I'll call that realtor because I know that realtor knows that market and they can get them sold. And I'll say, hey, I'm looking at this house. What do you think you can sell it for? I see that you've sold many houses, and all you have to do is go on Zillow, click instead of for sale, go to sold. And you can click on each house, and you can scroll down and see the realtor that listed the property and the realtor that they used to buy the property. And oftentimes they got their phone number on it. So that's a good nugget right there.
Yeah, I always live by the motto that I stole this from somebody else, but rock stars know rock stars. And so when you talk to a rock star agent or you talk to a rock star wholesaler or contractor, the best of the best only do business with the best of the best. And so my transaction coordinator, for example, I met her through a Rockstar real estate agent here in Houston, and it's been like a really great experience to use him as a transaction coordinator. And if anybody has questions for me or for the show, you can give me a text at 832-301-9672. If you have any questions about anything we talked about today, or if you're in the Houston area and want to send me a deal, you can give that number a text there. Don't call it. I won't answer. I get bombarded by spam calls all day long, so shoot me a text and we'll set up a call. So you talked about how you were finding deals. You're using agents. You're using wholesalers. And are you still doing any paid marketing?
Yeah. So I do postcards and PPL, so paper lead. Those are my main two sources right now.
So what does it cost you for a PPL lead in these markets?
So a lead, I do things a little different. I don't trust PPL companies. So, it's usually a bidding system, and they try to get you to go to be the highest bidder in the area, right? I keep it at the lowest, and I still get deals. I still get leads. So I try to keep it around 150 to 200 per lead. And it says it'll send you a message saying you are being outbid or you're the lowest bidder, but I'm still getting leads. So, I when I first started PPL, I would change it and I'm the top bidder and blah blah blah, right? But then I realized it's ridiculous. I'm going on here and spending time doing this every day, changing my bid, and I'm like, let me just see what happens when I keep it at the lowest. And I was like, I'm still getting leads. So something strange is happening, but yeah, it takes a lot more to get deals closed from PPL, obviously, but they are usually better deals whenever you do get them closed.
That is a really good cost per lead. Every city and every market is different. It could be $500 for a lead. It could be $800 per lead, depending on what city you're in and how much competition you have for PPL. And PPL stands for pay per lead. And so these companies that sell these leads, they do digital marketing, retargeting. They have some interesting systems that they use to get their ad or to get the people's attention through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, email, website ads. And what they do is they have highly motivated people. I found PPL leads to be highly motivated, really good leads, but depending on the market you're in, they can be really cost prohibitive. How many PPL leads does it take for you to close a deal usually?
I don't have the amount per deal. I do have the cost per deal. Usually is around 1,500, 15
Around
to 2,000.
$1,500.
Yeah, and the postcards are normally anywhere from 15 to 2,500
Nice.
per closed contract.
Nice. And so, how are you targeting with the postcards? What do you pay per piece per mailer?
Somewhere around 60 cents, 60, 70 cents, depending on if you're hitting like the normal landlords, high equity, and you're doing like a fake check. You're paying like 60, 70 cents per. If you're doing just a regular postcard, you're anywhere from 50 to 60 cents per. But if you're doing like a pre-probate type list, you don't want to send those people like fake checks. So we pay a little bit more for custom postcards with pictures of our family and stuff on it. So with certain type of niche data, you really want to come off as more of a family owned business than a fake check style business. So.
Yeah, and what Wyatt's talking about is what we call soft offers, soft offer checks. And so sometimes the letter will actually be windowed where you can see it, but you get it in the mail, it looks like a check.
Yep.
And when you open it, it says like, if this is a number that works for you, give us a call, or we could get a real check like this sent to you. They're called soft offers or soft offer checks. What mail house are you using right now for soft offer checks?
Yeah, REI print mail. Like I said, man, it continues to go back to me wanting to be as easy and as lazy as possible. So REI print mail is a done for you service. So they pull the list after you tell them what you want. They pull the list, they send them out, they do the postcards and everything like that. You just got to approve it and go. So it took me forever to start doing postcards because I thought that everybody and their mom does postcards, and it's true. Everybody and their mom does do postcards, but that's because it works, right?
That's right.
And so when I finally ate my ego and decided to do it, I think we started spending $3,000 a month, like right off the rip. And the second month, I think we closed $75,000 worth of wholesale deals. So I was like, all right, postcards it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I two things I always tell everybody, it's not what it costs, it's what it can make you.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is when something is working, don't try to fix it. It doesn't need to be fixed. I experienced that in my own business when my direct mail was working, and I'm like, let's implement cold calling and text blasting and and the direct mail was working just fine. And you said something about text messaging you don't really do anymore. I don't do it anymore either. The regulations have changed a lot. I know people that are successful at it, and we use text and email for follow-up once we already have a relationship with somebody. But I don't do cold text and cold emails, cold text and cold phone calls rather anymore. Regulations have changed. It's less affordable than it used to be. And we just leave it to the pros. And that's why I think buying PPL is great because they do all of that outreach for you. They do emails, texting, cold calling, retargeting. They're compliant with all the laws and regulations, and then they sell you the lead. So I think PPL is great. So you are networking to find deals, and you are also, I'm just looking at my notes here, you are also doing direct mail, and you're doing some PPL to find your deals. And then you said you're funding your deals with hard money and private money, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So you're using hard and or using both or one or the other
Yeah,
or
yeah, both. Whatever I can get at the present time. It's whatever's cheapest and whatever's available is what I use.
that's right. That's right. If you're doing volume, you will have to use hard money. They're professional, they're responsive, they're quick. I have private money lenders, but their pockets aren't
Yeah.
bottomless. And if they're lending to you, they're also lending to somebody else as well. So I start with my private money guys, and then I'll call a hard money guy after that. And then the long-term financing, once you refi, you rehab you get the property up to the market standard, you rehab the property, and then you refinance out of the hard money or private money into a bank loan.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and is it like a DSCR product? Is it a non-QM product? What is it?
It just depends on the area. So most of them are DSCR loans, but if most of those guys don't do rural areas, and if you know anything about Alabama, Tennessee, there's a lot of rural areas. So I do have good relationships with small local banks. The golden nugget with the small local banks is that you need to find the ones that don't have a seasonal period, that are doing 80% of appraised value, and have probably less than 5 branches, that they do business out of, and those are the best ones. Like I was telling you earlier, we got that one in Coleman that I can call up and talk to the president if I want to, right? Because it's just one branch. The rep that I talk to, the mortgage guy that I talk to, is sitting 2 offices away from the president. So
Yeah, I love small local banks as well. They're really great partners. But if you go to like Wells Fargo or Chase Bank, they don't know you and they don't care who you are.
no.
So I like using small banks as well. And so are they doing like 100% loan to cost? Like, are they making you, like you said, they'll do 80% of appraised value?
So the
If the
banks are doing, yeah.
Do
Go
they
ahead,
make
sorry.
you bring cash to the closing table if the property appraises?
So if it appraises on the back end, no. Like, we can do cash outs. I don't recommend it. I recommend you getting enough out to pay your hard money lenders back, and any money that you have in the deal back. But I don't recommend pulling extra money out unless you absolutely have to, because you're going to hurt the cash flow. But yeah, most small local banks will do 80% of appraised value. So if the property appraised for 100,000, they'll give you 80,000. So you want to be all in under that 80,000 or whatever that 80% is, right? DSCR lenders, they only do 75%. So
Yeah, and so what he's talking about is loan to value. So if the property's worth 100,000 and they'll give you an LTV or loan to value of 80,000, well, if your rehab budget, your private or hard money lender, if everything is under that 80,000, they'll pay you all of that. But some lenders have something called a loan to cost ratio as well, or they'll say, okay, Mr. Reed, property's worth 100,000, it appraised for 100,000. You only have 80,000 in a loan on the property, but we still want you to bring 10% down. We're giving you a loan for 80 grand, but we want you to bring 8,000 down. Some lenders will make you bring cash, not to the loan, as part of the loan to cost ratio. So I'm glad to hear that these local banks don't require you to do that. That if the property
yeah,
appraises and there's meat on the bone, they'll lend you all of it. They won't make you bring cash to the closing on the refinance. Yeah, I love to hear that. And so how do you find these small local banks that like to do business like this?
yeah, just like I said, call 100 banks. Talk to other investors, go to the networking events. Most of the time, the networking events will have banks there that work with investors, if they're a good event. So just network with them. And for me, my mentor gave me a couple that I needed to call, but man, I probably called every one of them in North Alabama, Southern Middle Tennessee. There are some that told me I had to hold the property for a year before I could refinance. Some that don't do cash out refinances. But the thing is just like what I've said multiple times. Don't take no for an answer. Go to the next. Find the person that's going to work best with you, and use that person until you have to find somebody else.
Yeah, I love that. So Google Maps, you can look them up, give them a phone call. You can network with people. And you said 5 branches or less is usually a good sign that they want to work with you. So we're coming up on a hard stop from you, so I'm going to keep shifting. I know you got to run. You're a busy guy. And so we're gonna move into the ending segment of the show here. So, what book changed the course of your life?
So I know it's cliche and everybody else says it, but Rich Dad Poor Dad, just really that one. I can't tell you the real nugget that I got out of it was that the poor people say I can't afford this, and rich people say how can I afford this. Like, that's the one thing that stuck with me. Anytime I have to make a big purchase, a mentorship or whatever that looks like that's what I tell myself. How do I make this happen if it's truly what aligns with me?
Yeah, I love that. Me and my wife adopted that from the book as well, and I actually have an original copy of the book on my shelf back here. I've got the modern one, but I found an original one and bought it as well. And on my top shelf, I have books that I've got signed by the authors that I've been lucky enough to meet, but I haven't got Robert Kiyosaki to sign that original copy yet. I'm saving that one for a long-term goal one day. So yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's where a lot of us started. Some people call it the Purple Bible, and that's what got a lot of us involved there. But almost everyone says Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So do you have another book you can recommend?
Yeah, man. Dude, there's so many of them. Never Split the Difference, Rhinoceros Success. I don't know if you got that one up there.
So Never Split the Difference, and what else?
Rhinoceros Success, J. Scott Alexander.
Yeah, Rhinoceros Success. You caught me. Tom's going to be mad at me, but I do not have Rhinoceros Success on my.
So I probably bought 20 of those books, and I handed them out to some of my first students. It's just it's like a childlike book, but it's so good. It's such an easy read, but it's really, really good. I like it.
Yeah, I do have Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. I really, really enjoyed that book too. That's an interesting one. So we're big believers in the Go-Giver here. For another book recommendation, everyone should be reading the Go-Giver. And so I like to tell people that your parents gave to you when you were born as a baby. They gave to you long before they could ever receive. And if you have a normal W-2 job, you work for 2 weeks or more before you receive your first paycheck. The universe works on giving before you receive. And I like to use the analogy of someone standing in front of a fireplace in the winter holding firewood. And they tell the fireplace, give me heat first, and then I'll give you this wood. And if that's how you live your life, it's going to be a very cold winter for you. And so in the spirit of the Go-Giver, I always ask every guest, what can you give the audience today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've got a bundle that I've put together for podcasts. It's got just it's for beginners, like how to get started in real estate, workbook, calculator, how to run numbers calculator, scripts. I think it even has my seller finance presentation in it. Case study vault, I think it's got a lot of case studies in it. How to find, fund, and do deals the way that I've done them. So definitely love to give that out to you guys.
Would love that. Is that a link or is it an email? What do they do to get that?
Yeah, so I sent you the link. If you want to put it in the show notes, it's a long link. I got to figure out how to make it not so long.
Yeah, we'll get that link. It'll be in the description or the show notes of the podcast. And then what can our audience give you?
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to grow my social medias. So just hit me up on Facebook, Wyatt Reed, at Wyatt Reed. And, if you can't find that, seller finance deals, just try to find the purple buffalo. That's kind of my logo.
Look for the purple buffalo. Love it. And if you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Michael B. Someone, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find the podcast, the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hoang. And my phone number here, I'm going to give it out again. If you have any questions about the show, If you'd like to be a guest on the show, if you have deals in the Houston area, don't call, please text 832-301-9672. Wyatt, it's been amazing to have you here, man. I love reconnecting with good old boys from Northern Alabama, where my mother's side of the family's from. It was great meeting you, and I'd love to hear the journey. And we're going to have you back to see where real estate has taken you.
Man, I'd love to come back, and I'd love to have you on my podcast too.
All right, let's do it, man. Let's schedule it.
All right.
All right. Until next time, everybody, be beautiful.